My thoughts exactly, Shad. Welcome into the Hoops Boys podcast, another latest and greatest episode. Your host with the most, James the Jet, America's favorite bitch-ass white boy, CProc. Our guest expert analyst, as always, Gregor's in the Shaddillac. And I'll tell you what's not the latest and greatest, and that is this performance from 3 out of 4 of us are New York Knickerbockers. Very uninspired. Julius Randle looks absolutely lost. RJ's been streak over the map. Quickly, we expect him to be streaky, but playing time too. I was like kind of feeling a little hopeful after game one, and even though we lost game one, but they still play hard. They still dominated the stat sheet up and down. They just came out on the wrong end of the scoreboard. But ever since then, game 2, we barely survived. Game 3, we got absolutely waxed. And then game 4, we just fell apart and looked all out of sorts. Partner, start us off. Why are we about to bawl our eyes out at the Knicks on the brink?
I feel like the Heat they're just like outplaying us. They're running in a zone on us defensively. And I feel like our 2 best players operate in the mid-range, and they're kind of like taking that away because as soon as they get in the space where they like to operate, they're getting trapped, or it's like they're seeing like 3 or 4 defenders. And then on the other end, they got us scrambling, collapsing the defense. And it seems like everybody on their team can hit shots from Gabe Vincent down to Caleb Martin. They're strapped up in this series, and we're having a hard time defending them. And then tonight's game, we got killed on the glass. Something that seems like to be a strength of ours easily turned to like one of our weaknesses. So they're, whipping our taint all around.
And the Heat aren't that good. I think that's the most frustrating part. This has got to be the most luckiest team in the playoffs right now. They had to play Milwaukee with Giannis getting hurt, trying to play on bum legs, and now they get us and we're just looking completely lost out there. Greg, is there any kind of silver lining in this?
Very disappointing. The silver lining, and I know this means nothing right now. I try to look at the season totality. I think most of us would agree. I don't expect the Knicks to get through this. The Knicks probably couldn't afford to lose home court right off the bat. It's been an excellent season. And, when we look back 2 months from now and the fact that they beat Cleveland, they pretty much dominated them. They made the conference semifinals, which going into the year, the silver lining would be, hey, this is a huge step up. They're actually a factor in the NBA now. They do. They look like a real team with good young players, depth. But as far as this series, I mean, they've stunk it up. There's no other way to put it. I mean, even like something James just alluded to, if rebounding, we're the 3rd best rebounding team in the league this year. They got it rebounded both games in Miami. And I mean, one stat that is just glaring to me, and if you watch the game, it was appalling. Miami got 8 offensive rebounds in the 4th quarter. And that's not, in the last minute, that was when the game was in the balance. So not only did Miami convert on 2nd, 3rd, 4th chances, it led to the Knicks getting in foul trouble. You had Hart foul out, Randall foul out, Brunson with 5. It took any momentum the Knicks would have had. And if you even look at just the shot attempts, Miami had 11 more 3-point attempts than the Knicks. Well, guess what? When you get 8 offensive rebounds and you out-rebound us so thoroughly in a game. So unfortunately, the Knicks, to me, I don't know if they're out of gas. They don't look to have that same level. And the same thing James said, I think Miami's had a good game plan. They've said the heck with it. The Knicks are going to beat us. They're not going to let them kill the paint, let them beat us from outside. We haven't shot very well. So I don't want to pin this on any one player. I don't think anyone's had a great series. And I think the Knicks season on a positive has been good. But I think the mettle of Miami, even the COVID year, we're talking when Butler out of bio, this team is tough. They're well coached. Beating Milwaukee, they won in 5 games against the 1 seed. So I don't think Miami is substantially better than the Knicks. but I don't think either one of these teams would be able to rebound from a 3-1 deficit. No, I think unfortunately the Knicks might push it to game 6, but unfortunately I think that's going to come to an end. Great year, but I don't see it going past this.
Chad, normally you would be very eager to pour gas on the fire, but fortunately we at least made it around further than your LA Clippers. But go ahead, have some fun, kick us around and put us back in our little corner, our little dark, solemn corner that Knicks fans usually like to habitate.
No, I'm not going to kick you guys around at all. You guys definitely overachieved, this year. I thought, you guys would probably lose in 7 to Cleveland, but you dominated Cleveland pretty much. I just think, like I said, I've said it pretty much all year. I think the Knicks are one player away. They have, great pieces. They just don't have like that star that could really, dominate a game, no matter what. Not depending on matchups or if they're just feeling that night, a superstar that can, pretty much dominate with them game in and game out. But I think they're a great regular season team, and they're a great, maybe first round team depending on the matchup. They play hard, and that's going to get them to win, 45 games or so, and probably could get them a first round win against a lower seeded team. And this is where I think it just ends because, this is where you're playing teams that are definitely, probably just as good or better than you. Fatigue maybe is a factor because now you're playing, games every other night. And, just that effort of starts to wane a little bit, once the further you get, deeper in the playoffs because, it's 82 games plus another 10 or so games that definitely starts to wear down on you. But I gotta definitely give the Knicks credit. I didn't think they would make it past the first round, and they look good. They, like I said, they're just missing a couple pieces, and they're running into Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler, who they're a proven team that has made it pretty far in the playoffs the past few years, especially with Butler playing like the best player in the NBA at times. So hats off to you Knicks fans.
Speaking of those Miami Heat, are they fool's gold? Or are they just catching all the breaks right now with the Knicks being over their head and coming off a series where the Bucks were missing Giannis and having to deal with the hurt Giannis, and then the supporting cast just not showing up?
I think they're, fool's gold to a point. Like I said, I think Jimmy Butler can, win you probably a round, maybe 2. They did get lucky with the Giannis injury. And then Mike Budenholzer just, I don't know, his head was in a different place during those last couple games, and that team just imploded. I think, of course, I think they're going to, finish off the Knicks in probably 5 or 6. And then they're going to move on to the next round where I think they're going to be, tremendous underdogs. And I'm not sure if they have enough kind of scoring to be either Philadelphia or Boston. So I think that's when their time comes to an end.
Greg, what about you? Fool's gold or maybe?
I mean, I can't
savvy?
call it. I can't call it fool's gold. I mean, this same team. I mean, granted, they had a better regular season, but the core of this team is the same team that went to the finals, who wasn't nearly as talented. I don't even think as Boston then, nor the Lakers in the bubble, and almost won the thing. I think the core of this team is still intact, and even Lowry, who's taken a step back, he's come off the bench this series. He's been a huge factor in the series. Him coming off the bench has been a big factor. So, I mean, if you tell me, I mean, listen, we saw Jimmy Butler's performance against Milwaukee was incredible, and even, Giannis was banged up. They won in 5 games. I mean, that's a beating. So, I mean, who can't they, do I think they're going to win the title? No, but would I take Jimmy Butler? I don't think Boston or Philly, talent-wise, they're both better, but has either of them shown any consistency where they're this world beater that's impossible to? I don't see that. So, I mean, I honestly, shockingly, I wouldn't have said this before the playoffs. I don't rule it out completely that Miami could make the finals. I don't see them winning it. But again, the inconsistency of Boston and Philly, I don't think it's crazy. I don't think I'll pick it, but that's not fool's gold. They're legit. And Jimmy playing at this level, that's a superstar. So could happen.
Well, I don't want to see that. I want to see them get embarrassed.
Tough
James
team
and
though.
Jeff.
Tough team. They really, if anything, if we've seen anything, and honestly, this is kind of over the last number of years, they are a really tough, resilient. They've withstood injuries. Hero's been out. You start to 1 game, 2 games. It's like they beat Milwaukee. They're putting it to us pretty good right now. Not that we're going to win the NBA title, but this is impressive. I mean, you have to. Their bench has been great. They have guys who can shoot the ball. So I give them a shot. I don't think it's fool's gold.
Their bench has been impressive in this series. I mean, Duncan Robinson was all but forgotten, and he's been more or less automatic from 3. And whichever Zeller is actually on their roster, he was beating us up in game 3 under the boards, and just
Martin's killed us.
he's getting to the basket a lot.
So anytime we've made a run, they've had an answer, and it's another guy. Even Kevin Love, I can't count how many times this series that offensive rebound, kick it out to him. That 3 when the Knicks are making a run, it's a factor. Like if guys who can knock down shots,
even the outlet passes, he's
yes, in that role right now. I mean he's a factor. Like they have guys who can play. I give them credit.
Kevin Love, the prototypical rec league dad.
But if you think about it too, though, quickly, he's in such a great spot. He just wants to win. He knows he's past his prime. He's all in and playing his role, and he does it well. Any team right now could use Kevin Love. I have no question about that.
for sure.
James the Jet, what you got in Miami?
I kind of agree with everybody. But if there's any team that can do what they've been doing and maybe take it even further and get to the finals, it would be Miami. Banged up, second, best scorer on the team out. It doesn't matter. They're still going to play hard and execute their offense and stick to their defensive plan. So, they showed it last round. They're showing it this round. And I'm pretty sure whoever they face next, I think the better matchup for them will probably be the Celtics, but they're gonna have a game plan for them too to make life hard.
Yeah, they might have the best coach left in the thing, because I'd probably take Spo over Kerr.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, Kerr's overrated.
I mean, we could coach that team.
What? On the same coaching thing, though, and correct if I'm wrong, but like I'm asking you guys, what I feel like watching the Heat, and this impresses me? I almost feel like they remind me of a college team in the sense that, like, they buy in. Like, I feel like they're different than other NBA teams. Like, they buy into the game plan, and they really do. And like that cohesiveness, I think that's why the fits, like the parts, they play their roles. They know it well. They adhere to a game plan. That's why I give them a shot. Like they're not going to beat themselves. They've shown that they're not going to do that.
Well, moving right along to another series in the East, the Celtics versus the 76ers, who have the MVP, Joel Embiid. The series has been pretty competitive, besides like Game 3, which was not a blowout, but a pretty convincing win by the Celtics. And then, the last game in the series, Philadelphia got away with the skin of their teeth. But overall, pretty competitive series. I'm going to go to you, Greg. How do we feel about the 76ers and the Celtics?
So I think this is, unfortunately for the Celtics, status quo in not a good way. In my mind, there's zero excuse how Boston goes out and loses Game 1 to Philly without Embiid. Too often this team lets off the gas. Game 5, the closeout against Atlanta at home. No way on earth they should have lost another one without Dejounte Murray. Boston didn't, if Boston loses this series, and I don't think they will, they didn't lose it because Harden hit that 3, Game 4. They lost it because, again, they let their foot off the gas on Game 1, gave a good team with a lot of talent like Philly a shot to be in it. And I think the cumulative toll of this, they're playing extra games and this should be 3-1 at the worst in Boston's favor. And that's not a cut on Philly. It is what it is. Boston's got phenomenal talent. Philly was playing without Embiid for Game 1 and probably compromised since. So I do think Boston gets out of this series. I think the home court, although they've not been great at home, I think their overall talent will prevail. But I'm at the point with these guys. Like I can't trust them. I can't trust them going forward to win the title. Do I think they should talent wise? Yes. But, and I'm not trying to cut on Tatum, who we know is phenomenal. In one of those losses, Tatum's 1 for 10 from 3. And it's like, when you're the best player, you got to do something different, Tatum. Like, you're too good. You can get most shots you want at any point. So listen, good job on Philly. Obviously Harden has by far his best series he's ever played in the playoffs. So I commend them for that. I do think Boston gets through, but Boston better quickly get it together, because that's why, again, when we talked about the Miami series, they pull that nonsense against Miami and give away a game they should win. Yep. Jimmy's not messing around, so not messing around. So I think Boston wins, but buyer beware.
Quick question: Is Jason Tatum the best player on that team?
I think so. I mean, if you want to judge it on pure upside ceiling, I mean, Tatum can score on anyone at any time. I mean, Brown, listen, I love Jaylen Brown, and I think sometimes they still get an issue of like Brown doesn't. I don't know if Brown doesn't get enough shots or doesn't demand the ball enough type of deal. Yeah. But I feel like I said, but Tatum needs to take that next step. That the excuses are over. They need to win the title this year. And if not, I don't want to hear, the coaching's not great. Missoula doesn't like to use timeouts at the end of the game, and it happened twice. They didn't use it at the end of regulation. They didn't use it the last overtime possession. They got the shot off late. I do think that is a small factor, by the way. Just it's a new coach. I mean, he doesn't even have a full year under his belt. Yeah. So the nuances of the job. I feel like if you've seen him in the post game pressers, he's been rather ornery, and I think the stress has gotten him a little bit. So like I said, I think they're the most talented team in this. I'm not convinced they're going to let off the gas one too many times, and they're going to get burnt.
Shaddillac, how do you feel about this series?
I think the 76ers, I'm going to stick with my pick and say they're still going to win this series. I think Harden, he's kind of found the fountain of youth. He looks like, Houston James Harden for a couple games in this series. I just don't think the Celtics have a leader on that team. I think they have great players, Tatum and Brown, all-star, superstar caliber players. They have Marcus Smart and a couple other, couple other dogs, Horford. They just don't have like that floor general, that leader. Doesn't even need to be somebody that's like the best player on the team. They just need somebody who has like intangibles, can get them, where they need to be, get them in the locker room, get them in that team huddle, and just, you guys do this. This is where we're going to execute. I think that's what's missing from the Celtics, because they got plenty of talent. And I'm not sure if they have the right coach. He's young. It's his first year. They got rid of the good coach, for, unknown reasons that everybody doesn't know specifically why. Like I said, between this year and last year, they look like a completely, different team. Like if you were to flip-flops years, like, all right, last year they would, they look kind of like not ready, or, they're missing something in the playoffs. I would have said, okay. And then this year they look like a contender. I think that's how it's supposed to go, but it looks like they took, a couple steps back. The 76ers, like I said, they got the MVP, I think, Joel Embiid. He's a little rusty right now. I think he's still not 100%, from that injury, his knee injury. And I think they tried to force, him into the action, his offensive action too much, in the first couple games. But I think they got it together for this game. And I just think, the 76ers, they know, Embiid, Harden, Maxey, they're going to, be the whole entire offense, for that team. And the Celtics have yet to really stop it besides, pretty much game 2, when there was Embiid's first game back. So unless Doc Rivers, does like a Mike Budenholzer and just messes it up, I think the 76ers are going to win. And I think Missoula is already kind of messing it up for the Celtics because, like I said, they're not, taking control, especially like using their timeouts in the last minute, last seconds of the game. And then why would you ever, I don't know if it's drawn up, but why would Marcus Smart ever get the last shot? You got, two bona fide superstars. I would even give it to somebody like Al Horford or Brogdon, Derek White, not Marcus Smart. He does not like an offensive player. He's like the seventh best offensive player on that team. So I think the 76ers are going to do the little things. I don't think you could stop them. I think they got the better clutch players and better leadership. And hard to say, the better coaching, I know, coming from me. But the 76ers, I think are going to win this series in probably 7 games.
I agree that Marcus Smart shouldn't be the guy taking the last shot.
Absolutely not.
But if you're looking for a leader on that team right now, I think it really is Marcus Smart, because when you're looking for those big, like, kind of intangible type of plays, it's usually is Marcus Smart. I mean, he had a couple blocks on bigger guys in game 4. He gets on the floor, he scraps, he's getting people's face playing defense. Like, he's the one that's really being gritty. It's definitely not Tatum. I mean, Tatum, he can have the absolute dumbest game you've ever seen on a basketball court and still score 35. He just gets by so much on his just raw, pure talent.
He's been rebounding well too this series.
Mm-hmm. He does, yeah. He does.
Chase, one thing I want to add. I'm curious. Game 5. As much as I'm, same thing of Missoula, their timeouts. I will say this: if you watched the fourth quarter, I mean, when they were doubling Embiid a lot of the fourth quarter and overtime, and I will say the Sixers were lucky. Like, once they blew a big lead. Like, I will say that the Celtics made a really good adjustment defensively, to get back in that game to take that lead. I'm curious to see what the move is on Rivers' behalf, because Philly's offense they had none for 3/4 of the fourth quarter and late third, or drive to the hoop that night, or on Sunday. So I am curious to see that. I think Boston's played their cards, and I don't think they're going to vary from that, and nor should they. I'd rather lose to Maxey, Tobias Harris, whoever, than let Embiid go for 50 plus every night.
Yeah. Poor Al Horford.
Horford, you know what, James? Honestly, Horford in that fourth quarter he played great defense on Embiid that day. He really did. Like, I was impressed.
Like I said, they're going to drug test him.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was incredible. He really was. Like, I was impressed. But, sometimes, like, yeah, the Celtics lost the game early because they got themselves such a hole. But, like, you look under the hood, like, that was a damn good second. They did a lot of good things in that second half. They did. And overtime. I mean, geez, they could have won. It was obviously an awesome finish, but
they'll drug test him for whatever they put in the fountain of youth.
He found it.
Yeah, he was great.
Partner, any thoughts on this series?
Boston really should. I mean, it sounds. I don't know if it sounds cliche. I mean, Boston really should win this. I like it. Like, every logical bone in my body wants to say Boston's still going to find a way to pull it out. But I just don't know if I can trust them to do it, because it's not necessarily like the fact that, Harden hits this miracle shot at the end, sends it overtime or whatever. Boston had a nice, decent lead in the fourth quarter, and they just gift wrapped it over to Philly. They had a good, I don't know, it was like 5-6 points or something. It wasn't anything huge, but it was with 2 minutes left in the game. It should have been something a good team can handle. And they're going down the floor, and Tatum's jacking up a 3. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like,
maybe you don't get a basket, but at least work the shot clock down. Go to the basket, try to get a 2, try to get an easy shot.
As someone who's, I was just gonna say, someone who sees them a lot living up here, it's unfathomable to me. I mean, like, it's not inability, but it's their lack of composure when it comes to closing out these games. It just keeps happening. Like I said, I'll use it. I'll go back to that Atlanta game 5. Like, there is zero way they should have lost that game. And the same with game one. You can't. Again, I think their talent is going to overcome, and I do think, and now it's a best of three. Having two in Boston is it's a big advantage, obviously, but they can be frustrating.
And at one point in this game, we were probably getting ready to give the Sixers a Knicks style lambasting in this episode because they're just dribbling the shot clock down to nothing for no reason, no ball movement, and Embiid's firing up fadeaways from behind the three. He took one fadeaway from the elbow, got blocked by Al Horford. And Joel Embiid should never get blocked by Al Horford.
You know how I think it was Shad or James was saying, like, how just Boston, I think Shad said they haven't looked the same. That defensive effort the Celtics gave in that fourth quarter was incredible. That's the first time I've seen that basically all year into them on the defensive end. Like, they just haven't, I don't want to say bought in, but there's not been that effort. If they play like that, like they did in that fourth quarter, they will win the NBA title. But that's the issue in of itself. It only comes in spurts these days. If they play like that, they will win the NBA title because that fourth quarter, Philly couldn't get a good look. Period. It was impressive. That wasn't a fluke. They bought in and they made it hell on them.
They need some of that. Remember what they did to the Nets last year in the playoffs. They need some of that next game to make life really hard on them because they shut down KD and Kyrie. It's just Joel over there. They got worried about.
Switching over and going out west, is a bucket full of points going on in this Nuggets Sun series. And the Nuggets got out really hot. Phoenix has fought back, tied it up. So it's starting to look like the series we expected it to be. But I just don't know. I mean, Chris Paul's not playing. They're still playing. Phoenix is still playing really well. So, I mean, Shad's certainly seen enough Chris Paul games over the last several years from his time with the Clippers. So are maybe the Suns better off without Paul right now, Shad?
No, not at all. To me, the way Phoenix has been playing is not very sustainable. To me, it's like a high school team where they got like two superior players and then everybody else pretty much watches. And maybe you'll be lucky if somebody else steps up for 10 points or so. I mean, I know the last game, Shamet, he was looking pretty good coming off the bench, had 19 points. But it's pretty much just Durant and Booker. Ayton, he looks overwhelmed. Like Jokic is really just making him look bad. He doesn't look like a star player or a good player at all. I don't think, in my opinion, in this series. They need Chris Paul to come back, just because. I mean, I know he's not a huge scorer, but he adds depth to what they're already lacking. This team is pretty much, like I said, two players, and they hope for somebody else that has a little bit of a hot hand. You can't expect Booker and Durant to get 30 points plus every night. I know Booker's been shooting unbelievable. I think last night he only missed 4 shots. And Durant, being one of the top probably 20 players of all time, he's always consistent, 30 plus. But they're going to get tired, especially in the altitude in Denver. When you're playing 40 plus minutes every night, they need somebody who could take the load off and, kind of lead, other people on the floor and get them easy shots and just that leadership aspect. So, the Suns look great, but it may not hurt them this round. They may somehow sneak past Denver, but I think it's going to hurt them later down the line to the conference finals or finals because, you just can't play just with 2 players and rely on pretty much nobody else. So, yeah, I think the Suns, I think this is probably the end of the road of them, and they need CP3 to come back. I'm not sure the timetable of it, but if they don't get him back, I don't think they have a real shot.
Yeah, I mean, Joker really abused Ayton in the last game, going off for 50 plus. And criticism rightly due to the lack of Phoenix's depth and not knowing where where the bucket's going to come from after the big two. But Denver doesn't exactly have a ton of great depth either. Greg, what's the secret as this series shifts to effectively a best of three now? Is it just a matter of first team to 150?
No, I think Shad had a pretty good summarization of this series. I agree with him mainly on one thing. So Phoenix now is down to basically if Booker and Durant don't go off, they don't have a monster game. They don't have a chance. That's a lot to put on them. I mean, you have one bad shooting night. The Chris Paul injury. Here's where I think, listen, NBA teams, the Suns are obviously very good. Any one game, yeah, you can get by that game. I mean, they're NBA players. But over the course of a series, now if you lose someone else, if you get someone in foul trouble, that's a huge loss. It's minutes away from a capable veteran, a star in some aspects. And I just think, like, to be quite honest, I was kind of impressed with Denver, like on the road. They could have won both those games. So I honestly look at it. I don't see Phoenix being able to get enough stops to win a game in Denver. So even if it just holds court, home court as is, I do not see Phoenix beating Denver at this point. I think Jokic is just, he's playing at another level. And I think you're asking too much of the other two superstars. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I got Denver. I think this is where earning that home court really comes into play. And I think Denver is going to win this series.
James the Jet. Agree? Home court be the difference?
Yeah, I totally agree with Shad. I think that what's going on right now with the Phoenix Suns, although, Book is playing out of his mind, KD's playing very well too. It's not going to be sustainable, even if they get past this round. How long can they do that for? They're playing damn near the whole game, all the games, and they got to do all the scoring. So, but it has been pretty impressive to watch. But I think Denver wins this series, just because they're going to run out of gas. They haven't won in Denver. They took care of business at home, but we'll see. This series has been, I think, my favorite so far. Of course, the Knicks series, but we all know what's going on in that series. But
There's nothing to love out of our Knicks.
I was going to say that hadn't been my favorite, the one I look forward to most. But I've been swearing up a storm.
But yeah, this series has been definitely fun to watch. Joker's playing out his mind as well. Had 50 last game, right?
Yeah.
53, I think.
You brought up running out of gas. I mean, do you think, regardless, let's just throw inhibition to the win, regardless of who comes out of it, are they just going to be completely gassed going up against the Warriors or the Lakers?
Yeah, and I think it's gonna, either way, it's gonna be a tough out, right? They're gonna have to deal with LeBron and AD, or they gotta chase Steph and Clay around. And I know they probably rather play LeBron and AD, because defensively, the Warriors are going to pick them apart, I think. They play they move the ball too well. It's too chaotic, you know what I'm saying? And they already shown, like, especially in this series, Joker's picking them apart with the pass, even though he didn't really have a crazy amount of assists last game. I think the Warriors would be a bad matchup for the Suns. The Lakers can defend, though. That's the equalizer. They play defense, and Lakers get past the Warriors. I don't think dealing with the Suns is going to be that much tougher. You know what I mean?
James, something you said too. Getting back to that, I don't see. This is where it's funny. I get going back to the trade for Durant. You have to make the trade for Durant. I totally get that. I think this series, losing guys like Cam Johnson and Bridges, I think it kills them. I don't think they can get enough stops. Even game 3, like, again, looking under the hood on this one, Phoenix blew a big lead in that. Phoenix was up, 16, 18. Denver came back and took a lead. You're not getting away with that in Denver. That's not going to, I just don't think, and I love KD. I root for him. I don't think they get enough stops. I don't. I think that lack of personnel, I don't think they can now.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like every team that did a trade like that, from Rudy Gobert to
Yeah, you're right.
Kyrie, they all
Dallas, they couldn't defend anymore.
yeah. So
That's a good point.
There's a consequence. There's a consequence to selling out for 1 star.
no, it is.
How about selling out for 2 stars that get hurt?
Well, you're just cursed.
I think I know what he's referring to.
Chad, your team's just cursed. I'm sorry.
I told you, Jeremy Lin is lighting up the Chinese league right now. Or the Taiwanese. I'm not sure. One of them.
Well, the Knicks aren't cursed. The Knicks are just incompetent.
Yeah, we're cursed in that we have a really bad owner for the last 30 years. We've cursed ourselves. The Clippers have had bad luck.
It's funny that you said Jeremy Lin is tearing up the Chinese league. I saw that DeMarcus Cousins is also tearing up the Chinese league. Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
It's so crazy. I can't believe that he can't get a job, and he was on the Lakers last season.
Yeah, I'm just quickly. I can't see it either unless teams are worried like locker room stuff. I mean, it seems like he goes in for 12 minutes and gets 10 points and 6 rebounds every time he does it. Like somebody can use that. The Knicks could have used that tonight when they gave up 37 offensive rebounds in 10 minutes. But as I digress.
Oh man, another series out west is the Lakers versus the defending champs, the Golden State Warriors. Right now, this series, the Lakers lead the series 2-1, and right now the game is currently on 94-93 Warriors. This game has a lot of ups and downs. AD has been playing really well this series. He's been rebounding out of his mind. LeBron, I think LeBron this whole playoffs, he's been like really just on cruise control. He hasn't been really exerting himself. I don't know if that's just because he's older or is he just trying to save all his energy for those moments that he needs to, turn Super Saiyan and go crazy. I don't know what that's about, but he hasn't scored 30 all playoffs. And the Warriors pretty much status quo. Clay has been playing really well this series. Steph's been Steph. And I know they're really happy to get Andrew Wiggins back. Shad, how do we feel about this series? Who do you think is going to come out on top? Do you think the Lakers edge out the defending champs?
I honestly do think the Lakers beat them. That's just not me being, a Warriors hater and a LeBron, stan, I guess. To me, I think the Lakers just play a style that the Warriors aren't very good at. And they're complete opposite sides of the spectrum. The Lakers play, like to go inside. They like to play, very hard-nosed defense. And, the Warriors are pretty much finesse and a jump shot team with not much, size. They definitely can't, guard Anthony Davis, no matter who they put on him. I know he's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Some nights he looks like the best player in the league, and other nights he looks like just a role player. But I don't think they could guard him. When he's motivated or healthy or whatever the issue is. No matter if they put Looney on him, Green, or anybody else, he's too big. He's too athletic. For anybody that they do have. And the Lakers, Darvin Ham, he's been great at making adjustments. He made a little adjustment, when he had Vanderbilt on Curry, and then I think it was game 3, he put Vanderbilt on Draymond Green, which when Draymond Green sets the pick for Curry, they switch, and he's on Curry, from there. So just little things like that. I think the Lakers have done a great job, and I think he's doing very good job of kind of preserving his energy, for the right moments in the game. he's not necessarily going all out and having these triple double type of games. He's picking his spots and moments, and he's kind of making it out to be AD's team. He's making AD be the focal point of the offense. I don't think the Warriors have the size for this. It's just a terrible matchup for them. If they were playing kind of any other team in the West, maybe besides maybe like a Denver, I think they could probably do it, but just because they're, that championship pedigree, and then they like to run, and then they have the shooters, and that's everybody tries to be like Golden State now, besides a few teams, and you can't be the team that pretty much invented the style. You can't beat them. So I think this is bad luck for the Warriors, even though they had all the breaks over the years. Getting this matchup, I don't think they could they could get past the Lakers, especially going 7 with the Kings. They're probably just a little bit gassed, a step slower than they might be. They are a step slower than usual. Especially being an older team that had this title run the past close to 10 years now. So I'm going to go with the Lakers, but I do think it does go 7. And I mean, teams just can't. It's like almost impossible to win back-to-back 7-game series.
Yeah. Greg, how do we feel about the Warriors and the Lakers?
I hate to be simplistic here, but this is exactly how I feel. It's the Golden State's up 2 with less than 4 minutes left. I think the winner tonight wins the series. Really, I don't think Shad's definitely not wrong. AD has presented a huge problem for them. I don't think because of that, that he's also had this kind of series or playoff run of one great game, one not so great. I don't think if the Golden State falls down 3-1, I don't think they can shut him down 3 consistent games like that. On the flip side, I think if Golden State wins this game tonight, which again, 2-point game, 4 minutes left. Again, not trying to sound simplistic here. I think if they regain home court back, I still question again, and I think you've seen a little bit in the Lakers already. I feel like they've been playing the playoffs for the last month before the playoffs. And the thing I always harp on with them, their health, their legs, they've gotten deeper. I think this is the series right here as it unfolds as we're talking on air here. I think it's an absolute must for both games. So that's, again, not trying to be simple, but that's it. We'll know in a few minutes. That's where I go with this. Oh, because I do think if Golden State, gets this huge momentum back, goes back home where they've been amazing, they're going to be tough to beat there. Not that the Lakers can't beat them, but I trust the championship pedigree of Golden State at home. But
it's too bad the last 5 minutes of an NBA game takes 3 hours, because we could very much get the end of the game on the show.
Right.
Yeah.
If an NBA game took a normal amount of time for any other sporting event.
And quickly, this has been, just from a glance, this has been like both teams are playing this as if they know this might be the series. Yeah. Like this has a game 7 feel to it. Yeah. And quite frankly, in my opinion, I do think in this case, I think the winner of this is who moves on.
Yeah, I feel like as long as Davis is healthy, he's going to, and obviously keeps his head right game to game. But as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be the defensive presence that is probably necessary to slow down Joker.
Yeah.
But it's just going to come. I guess ultimately this series is going to be how much guile do the Warriors have to keep them going. To keep some gas left in the tank of this pseudo dynasty or whatever they are.
I think, speaking of that, Chase, I think just back to Joker, I think that one of the best things I've noticed about Joker is like he's so good at, yeah, sure, man for man, yeah, AD is probably, but Joker can facilitate as well. You know what I mean? He's not a one-trick pony. That's what I love about Jokic, is that, sure, go ahead, keep him from scoring 30. He'll dish out 18 assists. That's the beauty of Joker, right? Just touching on that. That's why he is so good, because you can't fully take him out of a game because he's not just a score only guy. He's the furthest thing from it. That's just touching on that. He's so good at that.
and I think if they match up with the Lakers, he's gonna have to defend, like really defend somebody.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, and Joker likes to operate in that mid post area. So does AD, but AD will take you off the dribble a lot more than Joker will, and that could spell foul trouble. And if Joker ain't playing, that's it's pretty much wraps for that team.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Not wrong. No disrespect to Jamal Murray, but you ain't wrong.
No, Jamal's tough. But he's just coming back.
He has looked, as close to form though as he has since. I put it this way: watching them play sometimes. It's the first time I'm forgetting that he's, you know what I mean? Like I think he's like confident enough now that he's, yeah. If he's not 100% back, he's close to it, and mentally as much as anything, which is a huge factor. Well, and apparently Lonnie Walker might win the NBA Finals. He's about 9 for 10 as we speak. So
yeah, he's going crazy. He's going crazy.
Yeah.
That's
13 points in the fourth quarter. Yeah, 13 points in the game, and they're all this in the fourth quarter.
He just hit another one.
Yeah,
unbelievable. But I was thinking, let's talk about some coaching carouseling that's going on. A lot of teams have made some movement in their coaching. The most notable one, well, the most recent one is Mike Budenholzer has been let go from the Milwaukee Bucks. The Houston Rockets let go of Paul Silas, but now they have Ime Udoka as their head coach. Toronto Raptors have let go of Nick Nurse. There's an opening there. There's an opening with the Detroit Pistons, and there also are a couple more teams that have their coaches on the hot seat, like Chicago and Minnesota, the Timberwolves. They could use a change with all the turmoil that they had this season.
Yeah, but I'm not very smart.
I'm gonna open up the floor. Any of these stick out to y'all?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one that sticks out, head and shoulders above all of them is the, Mike Budenholzer being fired. This team, even though he had, injury to his best player, and he obviously wasn't like 100% when he came back, they just imploded down the stretch. Now, I know he had some, personal reasons, the last few games of the series, but, that just looked like a coaching issue for the way they blew leads and just the way they look like a youth basketball team, with a coach who was just a kid's father who never did it before, in the last, few minutes of these games. He's going to get picked up by somebody else. He's just too good of a coach. Like, he always seemed to overachieved with his coaching with his teams in the past, even especially like when he was with Atlanta, back in the early 2010s when he took a team to a conference finals. But it's just like one of those times. It's one of those things when it's time. It's just time. I'm not saying you're a bad coach. Your team just maybe the past couple of years since their NBA championship, they just underachieved. They just need a new spark in the locker room. Maybe a new play style because, obviously they haven't done as good as expectations the past few years. Just relying on Giannis. So it's just time for him to leave. And I think, this is going to be a prime spot for a coach, whoever they decide, maybe they could poach a coach from another team, trading draft picks or something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like Greg Popovich tries to pop up in this position. So so I got to go with Mike Budenholzer as being the most shocking and the, head and shoulders kind of, position opening for this upcoming season.
If Pop leaves, he's retiring. I don't think he'd actually coach anywhere else.
Yeah, he's going behind the curtain for sure.
For me, I mean, Nick Nurse is kind of a surprise to me because that team was kind of right where they probably should have been anyway. And they didn't play. They obviously supremely underperformed in the play-in tournament, but I mean, they had some severe changes there, and he's been a really very steady hand in that franchise in recent years. So that one kind of surprises me a little bit, just because they retooled a lot, but they still have kind of a similar core hanging around there. So they were building up some good pieces, bringing Scotty Barnes to play with Pascal. So I don't know, that one kind of is a little bit of a head scratcher to me. I mean, I guess it's probably, to Shad's point, in Milwaukee, as far as that, just a new voice and shake things up. I'm imagining that's probably just what the situation is, but it's still kind of surprising me there because, the new voice thing doesn't always work when everyone is so tied together like the Raptors crew always was.
Greg, anything stick out to you?
Yeah, well, I can't not touch on Budenholzer, as Shaddillac too. Listen, do I think Budenholzer's been a very good coach? Yes. I'm still like just in awe of, and I'm not somebody to dump on a coach and think, but I'm not kidding. That collapse in that last game against Miami, the end of the fourth quarter and overtime, it really was like watching a youth basketball game. Nobody wanted the ball. Nobody knew what to do. Turnover after turnover. They should have lost the game 7 times beforehand. They couldn't inbounds a pass. They couldn't. Towards the end of regulation, Butler hits that, debatable, could have been charged with a push-off, hits that fadeaway falling down. They have a half second left. Now, someone needs to explain this to me. You have 2 7-footers, or you have Giannis and Brook Lopez. You have a half second left. You call that timeout. You can get an inbounds. You can get a tip. You can do a million things with 2 guys that big and that talented. They don't even call the timeout. I'm sorry, and I'm not saying like he's the reason they lost. You can't make that mistake. Like you can't. How many fouls are called in the NBA, right? You put one of them big. You beat Giannis. They drape 2 guys over him. He goes for a tip. Someone hold his shoulder, and if you watch their offensive execution, it seriously was. It was shocking to me. Like they made no adjustments. Giannis didn't want the ball because he couldn't hit a free throw. They ran nothing. Nobody knew what to do. For a team that had won a title, it was beyond baffling. So, I mean, again, I'm not blaming Budenholzer, but he didn't help. In that situation, he needed to be more of an authoritative coach, and he was not. So, as good a run as they've had, I know that's not New York, and they're not calling for the heads in the media, but it was brutal. I mean, that was really a brutal performance. So, I mean, that one, again, do I think he gets another shot somewhere? Definitely, maybe a year off. But that was a stunning performance by the Bucks and him, and I kind of understand how they he was made to pay somewhat for it. Sometimes that team was too good to lose in 5 games to an 8 seed. Giannis banged up or not, don't want to hear it. They were too good. And I think, and Chase, what you said about Nurse, I think with Nurse, just my own 2 cents. It's not anything I've heard. I just think sometimes at a team, they're probably going to shift things up a bit. Nurse has done a great job. I mean, he won a title. Nobody thought Toronto was going to do that, and they've been a pretty good team. That they didn't have a great finish this year, but I think Nurse is even more so than Budenholzer. I think Nurse will definitely be severely wanted by someone. If he doesn't have a job by this year, it'll be the next following, and especially considering how well esteemed the Toronto front office is, I think that'll be a highly sought after job. So in Nurse's case, I'm not going to put that on him. I just think sometimes, a team stagnates for whatever reason, personnel changes, and I think they just were looking for a new voice.
Talk about a carousel for Ime Udoka too, going from the NBA Finals to public embarrassment and getting fired or fake fired, and then fake fired, kind of fired, and now he has to coach the doldrum of the NBA that is the Houston Rockets. But hey, a head coaching job's a head coaching job.
He about
Yeah,
to
don't
have
don't
young
forget
guy.
though, they're also at the top of the lottery for Wembanyama. So
Yeah.
you at first, yeah. Anybody who gets that, you're going to see people knocking on the door of Detroit or whoever he goes there. Someone's going to want to coach both those places.
For sure. Yeah, I think for me, I have to agree with the squad. Mike Budenholzer getting fired is kind of crazy to me. But after this display, I could see why. You know what I mean? That team is too good, way too good to lose, whether they have Giannis or not. But even with Giannis there, even if he's at 65%, they should be able to take care of the Miami Heat. Or maybe the Miami Heat are destined to go to the finals because they can't miss from three.
Duncan Robinson can't.
For sure. Well, gang, it's been a pleasure.
Picks.
Huh?
Picks.
Are we doing picks?
We gotta do an updated pick.
Oh yeah, you're right. Take it away. Take it away.
So we can't say goodnight without updating our finals pick. So I'll toss mine in. It's looking looks like the Lakers game just ended, so they are now up 3-1.
Sheesh.
So my most to my surprise of all surprises, game actually ended before our show ended. And I don't want to see it happen. I want to see the Nuggets kind of run train all over them, but for some reason, my gut says the Lakers are kind of have a little bit of magic in the bottle right now. So I'll take the Lakers, and I just don't trust Boston. So I'll say as long as Philly's heads are right, which I know is asking a supreme amount, as practically asking for a miracle. I'll take Philly out of the East. And hey, I think that's a good rating series too, Philly and Lakers. And everyone's gonna chastise me right now.
Not at all. That's my final pretty much right now.
Yeah.
76ers Lakers. Like I said, I think this is going to be ring number 5 for LeBron.
Oh my God, I don't want that.
I put money on it. I told you guys last summer.
Yeah, you're a year ahead of schedule, I guess.
So I'm gonna stick with it. I think like I said, I think LeBron, he realizes probably his last title, a chance at a real title. So I think he's gonna, go all in. I think the chemistry is there for the Lakers. They finally got the right team around LeBron, with all the midseason trades. And I think in the East, I think just the 76ers are just way too talented, especially with Harden, having that fountain of youth. Even if he does it once every 2-3 games, that's hard to stop. Somebody who could light you up for 40 points and, almost get a triple-double every single game. So if he brings that in like 2 games each series, that's 2 games that the 76ers are going to win, and Embiid and Maxey really don't have to do anything. So I think they have too much firepower. I think Boston is just, like I said, they took a step back. They're imploding on, these clutch situations. I think they get past Boston in the semis. And then I think against the Miami Heat, I think the Heat just don't have enough scoring. I know the Heat are a tough team. They have great coaching. Like I said, I just think 76ers, you have the MVP. He's motivated this year. And he's going to get past the Miami Heat. And then there's going to be a toss-up between the Lakers and the 76ers. But I think Doc somehow messes it up. Darvin Ham outcoaches him. And LeBron just he turns back the clock and probably averages like a triple-double, because he's, kind of well rested, not having to do everything like he did back in his prime.
I think we gave Greg a coronary just now.
Yeah, there's no way if I listen to 10 more minutes of this, I'm gonna make it to watch the NBA Finals. I mean, the Laker, I'm gonna throw up, guys. So cover your screens. This is gross. Okay.
And
I
your
don't-
favorite player, James Harden.
As much as I hate the Lakers, and I'm not, they've recently won this game. I do think they win this series. I don't think they're beating Denver. I just don't. I don't think. The home court advantage in Denver, the altitude is a factor there. It's a huge factor. You have older players against them. It's not being anti-Laker. I'm not shocked the Lakers probably win this series, although I don't think it's over. But I don't think, I'm assuming Denver gets through, and I think the Lakers would have a better shot against Phoenix. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Denver will get through in the West, and as much as I've railed against Boston's inconsistency, I mean, I don't have any reason to see that Philly all of a sudden has become this playoff juggernaut. That they've shown none of that over the years as well. So I do think the talent in the home court for Boston will prevail, and I think it'll be Boston and Denver in the finals.
Greg got 3 theme music.
What's that?
I said you had theme music.
I'm not playing any music. I'm just thinking of like the most horrifying music on earth. Listen to you guys pick the Sixers and the Lakers. Oh, this is like Nightmare on Elm Street. Or what street are we recording on? Oh, Chad Kruger and Chase can be Jason from Friday the 17th, whatever night the finals is going to be on. Jeez.
Jason? Jason?
Yeah, Jason. There you go. Jason and Chad Kruger.
For my prediction, out west, I'm gonna go after this game. I'm gonna go the Lakers.
Uh-oh.
Coming out west,
Uh-oh.
and I think we're gonna see it for the 13th time in NBA history: the Celtics versus the Lakers in the NBA Finals. I think it's gonna happen.
Greg just messied his pants.
I'm just checking the year. Are Dr. J and Magic playing in a week? What's going on out here?
Kevin Garnett
yeah.
ain't walking through that door.
They're setting it up.
Oh my gosh.
Anything is possible.
For the love of Andrew Toney. Oh. Jeez.
We're gonna get a classic, an oldie but goodie.
Jeez.
Well, I jumped the gun last time, but this is the real thing. Thanks to everybody for kicking it with us and talking about this amazing playoffs. I just want to say this is a really good playoffs, the best it's been in the past couple of years. Everything's up in the air. We don't know who's gonna win, come out. So that's an amazing thing. Shout out to our guest experts, Greg and Shad. Y'all always appreciate it. Thanks for kicking with us. And if you want to hit us up anytime during the playoffs, hit us up on Hoops Boys Pod at both Instagram and Twitter. Let us know your picks. Until next time, it's Hoops Boys Pod. Peace.
Kobe.